Welcome to SOAR's 2021 webinar series. Today I've got the extreme wonderful pleasure of being joined by Joan Teach. I'll tell you a little bit about her in a moment. As you know, SOAR is a nonprofit adventure summer residential boarding school, and gap year program specifically for students who are living with learning and attention challenges. And you can find out all about our program at soarnc.org. The website I have up right now is also our webinar, and you can click on soarnc.org/webinars, and you see the host of webinars that we have. We have over 50 webinars for you to choose from, with a wonderful variety of topics and some tremendous speakers. Next month, I will be doing a workshop called The Fourth Option on Creative Behavior Management. So I hope to see you then. A couple of housekeeping issues. If you have a question, you may put it in the chat bar or in the question bar, and we will get to it at the end. The webinar should last about 20 to 30 minutes. Now, let me just share a little bit with you about my very dear friend, Joan Teach. She's been a special educator working with the ADHD population for over 50 years. She ran a school in Atlanta and that's how we met her. We would program with her school. Upon retirement, she developed a client consulting specialty program for adolescents, young adults, and women with specific ADHD issues. Concerned about the lack of services and support for this population, she utilizes her teaching skills to guide a discovery of strengths, support uncovering weaknesses, and provide guidance to develop goals to improve life skills. She's been a longtime supporter of SOAR and our programs, and she now sits on the board. She's also has participated actively on the boards of LDA, National LDA, and also CHAD. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you my very dear friend, Joan Teach, as she talks about It's All About Time.
I guess I just start talking here.
Yeah, Joan, take it away. Okay. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for that lovely introduction. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a screen with you in order to find out something about time. And what I want to do with this is be able to show you that time is something that many of us just get completely usurped by. And so, therefore, we're going to begin. And folks, it is just about time. In today's world, everything seems to be based upon time. How we react to this pressure about time severely impacts us daily, develops an anxiety about being okay, and has us worrying whether or not we are right, not right, and often leaves a huge dent in our self-esteem. In our overtimed world, we go from, what time is it? What must you do? Where do you have to be? When do the kids have to be in school? Our next meeting is when? Is this in person or is this via Zoom? Are you working from home? And what are the challenges and distractions there? First thing I want you to think about is, how is your brain on time? Time-based. Now, I have a husband who can tell you what time it is within 15 minutes, any time of the day or night, and has no qualms doing it. For me, time is a challenge. I have no idea whether it's morning, noon, or night unless I look outside and see what the sun looks like. And if it's a rainy day, I am lost. I have no time sense whatsoever. But I challenge you to know yourself. How do you personally deal with time? Are we all different? And each one of us reacts in our own way. Time is a trigger for many of us, things that create a lot of anxiety. And we are constantly out of sync with time. Then you start kicking yourself, feeling bad about yourself, and you give yourself bad press. But let's look at who you really are. Do you have slow cognitive processing so that you need that time in order to perform? Or are you the speed shifter? You're the Mario Andretti that runs around and tries to find one thing after another to do, never calming down. Or there's the let me think about this and I'm not too sure and I question it and I don't think that's very good and very insecure. Then there's the word ponderer. You use this word in front of me. Does that mean I'm good or does that mean I'm bad? And what are you trying to tell me? Not one of these processing systems are right or wrong, but they're different. And you have to figure out, who are you? Because your innate processing will definitely determine how much trouble you have with time. And as you approach time issues, they all have to be in accordance to who you are and what you respect about time. Unfortunately, the world gives the ADHD individual a bad rap about time. They're always saying, you're impaired by impulse control. You have poor time perception. You're impaired. Your processing time is off. You have poor temporal organization, poor wait time, high distractibility, poor planning, and on it goes. That's what the research comes up with. But what you have to decide is, who are you? And what is your sense of time? Now I have a little experiment for you. I want you to see if you know how much time is really in 5 seconds. Now I challenge you, because I don't want you sitting there going 1001, 1002. Instead, I want you to think about time. Now, I have this little gizmo that came out of a game called the 5-second rule. And what I want you to do is raise your hand when you think 5 seconds is over. It will start with the unit giving a buzz, and I will tell you when to stop. Here we go. End. Okay. How many of you had your hands up ahead of time? How many of you were dead on the dime? And how many of you could actually tell that you had no sense of time? Time comes from our circadian rhythm. This is the rhythm that keeps us naturally awake or asleep, and roughly every 24 hours should give us that 24 hours of in and out internal process. For some of us, circadian rhythm is really thrown off because we get involved in a project. We spend 3 nights staying up forever and ever doing it, and then wonder why the next couple of days we just have no way of keeping our individual rhythm going. Because circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral. They follow a daily cycle, or not if you mess them up. They respond to light and darkness in your environment, and sleeping at night may or may not be the greatest thing, because it's our chronobiology that makes all this work. Know your own biological clock, because that indicates how unique you are and what happens to you. This is your circadian rhythm. Now let's go to sleep. Our body's master rhythm is controlled by melatonin. Melatonin is supposed to make you sleepy. And yet, we do things that disrupt this. TV, electronics, all of these things get in our way and make that sleep-wake cycle just not work very well. This interrupts the value they get from sleep. And so when you wake up, you're as tired as you were when you went to sleep. Oh my, what do you do with that? Experiment with your sense of what you really, really do. I call it the proof is in your calendar. Use a timeline calendar, a real calendar, paper calendar, not something that's on your phone or on your laptop. Use a real piece of calendar paper and code your activities in detail. And by detail, I'm not saying I talked to such and such and I said this, this, and this. Just a phone call, maybe just a T for telephone call will take care of it. Make codes to make the input easier. Why are you doing this? Because you want to be honest with yourself. You want to find out, where do you spend your time? Many of us spend time that just kind of evaporates. We never have any idea. If you can enter this data for approximately 2 weeks, you will find something like, I get awake at 7 o'clock in the morning, shower, shave, and dress, breakfast, and leave for work. Then I have a time for clients, this client, that one, and the other. Time to review, time to make strategies, time to prepare for the next day, and then arrive home. However, by that point in time, we have completely exhausted our energy. So our time gets into the couch, collapsed, bag of chips and a beer, perhaps open a can of spaghetti, and watch the game. We veg out. We are dead on our feet. The only activity we had all day was shadow playing during the football game, and we stumble into bed. Just how does your time work? When it comes to ADHD time, we can assess what we have on our chart. And this is something you can hop on to the Attitude Magazine website, and Ned Hallowell nicely put this together so that it gives you all kinds of areas to look at that would say, where do I spend my time? Where am I efficient with time? And where do I waste my time? Okay, now look at this list of things that you do for yourself. What is missing on this list of activities? I have one I want you to go find. Do you take time for yourself? Nope, this isn't selfish, folks, because self-time keeps your self-esteem in balance, establishes a really good feeling of self-worth. Save yourself and make your life better. So many of us get our lives so packed with so many things to do that we have no time for ourselves. You will find the more joy in your life that you have, the better off you are, the more balanced you are, and it becomes a great de-stressor to have time for yourself. Even if it's only 5-10 minutes a day, find it. Another thing about time I want to remind you about is if you were late, or if you lost time, or you didn't do something about time, stop fretting about it. There is no way you can back up and find it. Move right on. Be positive. Do well for yourself. So many of you, I would bet, beat yourself up daily about not being on time, being late. And this compounds the feeling of hopelessness, just makes you completely unable to change. So instead, let's talk about being proactive about time. I'd like to share something that I use, and this is called my 15-minute rule. And you can use visual prompts. You can plan, and be aware of what works for you. But let's look at the 15-minute rule. When do you need to be there? 2 o'clock, as you were for this webinar. Okay, so you back up 15 minutes on that one to make sure you're there at 1:45. How long does it take you to get there? 30 minutes? Let's throw another 15 and back up from there. When should I leave the house? How long does it take to get ready? What am I going to wear? That's an easy one to take care of. Why don't you use that the night before? When should you get up? What else can I accomplish that day? You see those zeros down there? That means nada, nada, nada. If you really want to be on time, then you have to definitely decide you're not going to do anything else that day. Not let the dog out, not water the plants, not change the wash. Whoops, I'll back up on that one. That poor dog needs to go out. So that might be one thing that you can do. But not even if you're operating ahead of time, should you then go ahead and say, I can do all this. We get easily disorganized and pulled away when we have good intentions on time. Look at how you spend your time. What wastes your time? Is it clutter around you? Is it chaos? If so, sort it, toss it, file it, do it. Rule of thumb, if it takes under 3 minutes to do it right now and get it out of the way. Wouldn't it be nice not to have to add that to your list of to-do? And if you're in the sort it, toss it area, put a giveaway box out in the hallway. Why in the hallway? Because it's out of sight, of what you're doing in your bedroom, what you're doing in your office, what you're doing downstairs when you are making dinner. So the rule is you must give it away when it's full. And that's usually only a call or a travel away, Goodwill, church closet, yard sale, wherever it might mean. Get it out of your way, because the least clutter you can be, the easier it is to just organize yourself. Now, some of you ruminate, and that means getting an idea in your head and going around and round and round and round and round so that you can't get anything else done. Conquer those kinds of distractions by parking your ideas. It might be a simple idea. You're sitting there talking with someone, and all of a sudden your jumping around brain says, I got to pick up milk on the way home. And all of a sudden you're only half listening because you keep trying to remember it's milk you have to get, not bread. But if you jotted it on a Post-it note and stuck it to the side, you'd have it in a parking lot, and your ideas and your feeling of being afraid that you'd forget it goes away. So you can go back to focusing and using your time more efficiently. Another way to try and get a handle on how much time it's taking you is, suppose you have a project. The project's due at the end of the month. So start with when it is due and backtrack to when you have to begin and how you have to begin. Because when you look at the first of the month and say, I've got a month to do this, it seems very easy to get all the way down to the deadline. But first of all, it's due. And just remember that a goal without a plan is just a wish. So here's an idea. You have a calendar, it's due the last of January, and you keep backing up until you get everything done. It's finished the day before, it's reviewed and edited before that, it's typed before that, it's written before that, it becomes a draft before that, an outline, and on up to collecting the articles. And the very first part is, what's the topic? So it's easier to back plan going by the end to the beginning than it is to just jump in with all feet flying. Here is a time myth that I want to share with you. It is the biggest falsehood of society. And so many people say ADHD people get so much done because they multitask. And really what they're doing is they're just jumping around, running towards the end. Research shows that we lose more by needing all these gears to shift, going from one activity to another. We lose focus and time. We don't complete our thoughts. So honestly, you can only focus on one thing at a time and focus on it adequately. Now, that's hard because we have so many ideas flying around in our heads at the same time. So what we need to do is figure out how we're going to do that, because multitasking is taking much more time than we want to give to that particular issue. How often are you mentally hijacked? There's a term called metacognition, and this is called thinking seriously about how you operate. And this is all controlled by your emotions. So another way that you're going to get hijacked about getting things done on time is if what you have to do takes an inordinate amount of time to accomplish it, I would bet it's something you hate to do. So go ahead and make a hate to do list. That's not any problem. And intersperse it then with parts of your love to do list. Because if you look at your process of what you have to do during the day, and if you have the opportunity, wouldn't it be more fun to do something you like, and get your gears rolling, and then do something you hate for a short period of time, then turn around and do some more about what you like, then turn around and finish that I hated to do this. And by the end of the day, you'll find that you might have 4 or 5 things that were really fun, but you also accomplished 2 or 3 things that you really have problems with. Make your life more palatable. After all, you're the one that's living it and you deserve it. Oh, If you want to think about how you're going to get there, start out with, oh, I don't like who, maybe you don't like who you are, but I really think this could possibly say, I don't like how I do this particular thing. But make a small goal, a baby step to change. Find help, because sometimes somebody needs to reach out and give you a hand. Be sure you can think out of the box, because it's very, very painless that way. Next, practice this type of thing that you're going to change once a day for 15 minutes and begin to fine-tune your strategy of getting better. Feel good about what you've accomplished, and really and truly talk to yourself and tell yourself how wonderful you are and how much you've done, instead of beating yourself up about everything you didn't do. Don't have your amygdala hijack you. Those are thoughts. I did do this. I should have done that. Oh, I can't. I'm not able to. So why should I try? I hate doing that. All of these things impact us and give us that kind of helpless feeling that we can't move on. So instead, verbally prop yourself up. Talk to yourself. If you have to, go in front of a mirror and talk to yourself and tell yourself how wonderful you are. Because the true level of a desire to change, you can change day to day. Self-talk yourself and really tell yourself about how good and what you've done. Then, when you're ready, work on a tiny irritant first, instead of trying to reinvent yourself completely. You can identify a small thing that you can work on just 15 minutes at a time. Small steps make much better changes. And our change system is very slow, very sluggish, and it takes a long time. Some of the research even says if it takes a neurotypical person 2 weeks to change, it's going to take us with our neurodiversity perhaps as much as a month or two. So we want immediate changes and immediate differences because of our desires and our impulse, but we also find that doesn't happen very often. So don't let distractions control you either. Set boundaries. Do other people take a lot of your time by constantly interfering? Can you manage these interruptions? Can you delegate some things? We as ADHD folks often think we have to do it all ourselves. We don't. Delegate some. Don't forget there's also the learn to say no. You should never, ever, ever, and I am the world's worst at breaking my own rule, say yes to something without waiting 48 hours. The reason being, when you first think about it, oh, I can do this and it sounds good, da, da, da. However, the second day you go, do I really want to do this? Do I really have time to do this? Am I able to do this? Or do I have to get involved in learning a whole new learning curve? Then, why do I want to do this? Is it something that will help me be a better person, feel better about myself? Or am I doing it in order to help this poor person who's coercing me? Celebrate your accomplishments. Look at the baby steps of things that you've come. Become motivated. And if you have to, fake it until you make it, but make yourself know that you want to feel good about yourself. Because being good to yourself is priming, absolutely prime. And if you're not, who is going to help you? Because you're all that you've got. So celebrate and have the time of your life and really and truly say how good you are and celebrate every little thing that you do so that you can feel good about yourself. And oh my goodness, how time flies when we're having fun. And so thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you again, Joan. I appreciate your timely presentation. And I do know that that we certainly have benefited from your taking 24 hours to reflect on and think about ways that you can support. But I wanted to open it up to any questions. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask Joan? Oh, Sheena, did you want to ask a question?
Thank
Jana?
you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very informative. I'm wondering, are timers helpful, or sometimes my kids find that to be increased in pressure? So
exactly, that's why I say everybody's an individual. Everybody has to approach time. And if you want them, for some children, timers are fun. They love beating the timer before it dings. For others, it does nothing but put a big push on their back, and they feel like they're overwhelmed. So we have to know, how is that child or adult going to react to that? I find the timers that work worse are the ones we started with, which are the kitchen timers that go clack, 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 clack the whole time. And it's sort of like there's this little message saying to them, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Some children work well with the time timers because they're silent and collapse color. But whatever it might be, it's difficult to know. And what you might do is make a deal where you can, I'll tell you when your time is up, and we will discuss how much you have done in this amount of time versus saying you have to get it all done, because that might be the other problem. And, you know, if there's handwriting difficulty or math difficulty or any of the other educational things, that will definitely get in the way.
Joan, Meg asked about morning routines. What kind of strategies can we suggest to help the child take ownership of their morning routine?
When the child needs to have a routine just as much as the adult, and it's really important for them to, as I said, it's really important to start with something that they like to do. If they have homework every night, and that's the big fight of the nation, you definitely don't want to have to push and shove for that every night. And you know, everybody's exhausted, everybody's, you know, ready to fall apart. Find something that they like to do, and then get that as the pump. None of us like to do something that we're not good at. And if you can take the, I'm not good at this subject, be it math, if you do the last 5 problems perhaps, and you get them all correct, will the teacher allow you credit for the whole page? Just what kind of, let's make a deal, can you come up with? And it could be that reading is what the child loves to do, and to draw a picture of what they've read at the end is a big part. Finding things that the child enjoys and doesn't create stress, because our kids are almost like our PTSD soldiers. They just come back with so much anxiety and animosity and anger hanging on their shoulders. They have a hard time. So finding ways, and have the child involved in the schedule, because, and it could be, what kind of a schedule do you want to have this evening? And maybe the schedule of time is getting up in the morning and getting to school, getting to the bus on time. What are the perks that can happen if that happens? And can you break it down into teeny, teeny, tiny, minuscule steps so that they get value for each step that they accomplish?
Okay, thanks for that. We had technical difficulties there for just a second. And I will just add to that one of the more critical functions for us with our kids was to have as much by the door and prep the night before, so the least amount of effort needed to be made in the morning. So the secret for our morning routine was doing as much preparation the night before. All right, our Meg asked, what if my teen just doesn't have any concept or the passage of time? They are time blind. I'm sure that one of the things you're going to mention is the time timer, because it does spatially show you, time. But do you have any other ideas about how we can help kids become more cognizant of time?
There are times when it's kind of fun to take a teenager and do something like this time timer game, which is kind of fun because it does give you an estimate of time that is something they can't understand. Also giving them time blocks that they have, that they can take on their own and do something that they want to do. I find that doing what they want to do is one of the biggest rewards for a teenager. Of course, within logical limits, but teens have, in general, an unconscious lack of time. And our kids have a triple unconscious lack of time. And they don't have any idea how long it will take them. And sometimes they have to have things divided down into just minuscule lots because they can't get to the point of how much time it will take for X, Y, and Z. And I really think it has a lot to do with their maturity level and everything else that comes down the block. And if time sense is neurobiologically impaired, it's going to be a real rough road to hoe. So being and understanding that the fact they don't get done, or they don't do it in a timely manner, or they don't remember to do it, it all has to do with the neurology. It's not against you. And that's a real big thing for parents often to learn, that they're not doing this to bug you. They're doing it because they just cannot get it. And sometimes that needs to be, supported. And sometimes the body double system also works. If they have something to do, if somebody is there in the room with them, they will continue to work. And if they're only there by themselves, they kind of float off into outer space and nothing happens.
It's interesting that the concept of the body double works for us all. They tend to be more productive when there's somebody else just in that space with us. I would recommend as well the idea of wearing a watch and then setting time goals as often as possible, and have them set time goals.
Yeah.
Okay, where you've indicated that you want to get the trash taken out. How long do you think that's going to take? And then one of the things that we do at SOAR is the YODA, or the group leader of the day, helps set time goals, and they wear a watch and then they track time. And so, like any muscle, when you exercise it and you utilize it, it becomes something that, that we practice, and that can help overcome some of the neurological deficits. But you're right, if time impairment is a neurological deficit, it is a very difficult one to overcome. David, and I wanted to ask, any idea how much time on a tablet watching videos or playing games is appropriate for a 7 to 10-year-old? And David, I'm going to let you know, we actually have a webinar on that exact topic. And so I would encourage you to take a look. One of the foremost experts on play and time, we did a workshop together on that. But the short answer is it's different for kids, and it's different on school nights than it is for weekends. But what you really want is you want your kids to have a healthy play diet, and so what you find is that too much time on digital devices creates what I call the digital monster, and so for some it's really only 30 minutes. Others, it's potentially a 2 to 3 hours, but all day staring at a screen both creates challenges with your circadian rhythms that Joan was talking about, as well as it eliminates the other types of play that are critical to somebody being successful. And so I do see and have personally seen in my child's life that an increase in tablet or computer time did correlate with a more negative attitude. And when the digital monster came out, it gave us an opportunity to examine that, to talk about it, and make choices about how we were going to do things differently. The other thing that I found with my son that was particularly effective was giving him, speaking of time, giving him time warnings. You know, hey Jay, it's a 10-minute warning. Jay, here's your 5-minute warning. All right, Jay, 1 minute. So go ahead and start wrapping up, because in 1 minute the computer's coming off or the tablet's going up. And that proved to be particularly helpful. Joan, did you want to add anything?
No, I like both of those.
All right. Well, do we have any more questions? I will give you 10 seconds to respond. Okay, David, if you want to hang on here, I will pull up my screen and show that to you now. For the rest of you, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Joan. The next webinar will be November 16th, and it's called The Fourth Option. It starts with a really enjoyable story about an interaction my father and I had when I was 15 years old, and it is about creative parenting. So until that time, thanks so much. I am going to share my screen again so that we see those webinars. Give me just a moment and share. Here we go. All right. And so mindset, building a balance, podcast, creating a family day. All right, one of them is to unleash the power of play. And then the other one is the power of no power. Is one that I have on here as well, that talks about how much some of the challenges with time. Here we go. How to unplug and get outside. So those are the two webinars that I would encourage you. And then here, Gaming Overload. That's the one that you really want. Gaming Overload with Dr. Randy Coleman. All right. Well, you folks take good care. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to see you. I hope to see you back November 16th. Thanks again, Joan. And all of you take wonderful, wonderful care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.